Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to bring this in a little bit here, and we are back to do another countdown. The Transformers YouTube community asked a question a little while ago, and I'm a bit behind the 8 ball here about what's your favorite gimmick. Now, any of you that have watched me for any length of time should know that I'm not much of a gimmick guy. I'm pretty picky about that, and I think a lot of them aren't that great. So consider this fair warning. If you're a big gimmick fan, you're probably going to find this countdown a little bit of a, what? You're probably going to find this one a little bit critical. So without any further ado, without wasting any more time, let's get right into the GotBot countdown of 10 Transformers gimmicks. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your humble host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think. Check out Machinery Man, The Everything Factor. Check out my other playlists. Lots of content for everything coming up. You know, the review list and the stop motion list and everything. Some of it might take a bit of time, but we will get there. And this is a countdown of 10 gimmicks. Okay, like I said, I'm not much of a gimmick guy, so let's get this started. One of the gimmicks that has stuck around, believe it or not, is this. Now, I don't specifically just mean Action Masters. I mean Transformers that don't transform. They are pure action figures. I looked at a bunch of Action Masters back in episode 164. Quick shout out here. I'll do a proper one a little bit later on to Em and Joe over at the Transformers and Bear podcast, and you know, those guys gave a shout out to this video. I really appreciate it. They've been big supporters of the channel. By all means, check those guys out and check out their podcast. I usually enjoy it on Fridays. Anyway, that being said, there are people who don't care if their Transformers can actually transform. I like for mine to be able to transform, but sometimes it's acceptable for them not to. If they are super animation accurate, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Not perfect, but I'm okay with it. Or if they are super highly articulated, sometimes I will let it slide. But overall, I'm not going to lie, when I hear tell of a Transformer that doesn't transform, I get kind of disappointed. And a lot of the times, there are things like these big, I don't even know what you call them, the big Titan thingies that like came out around the movie time and whatnot that don't really change. Not really a fan. I get them, you know, I get the point for kids, but not really a fan myself. If you are, hey, cool, you are certainly entitled to be, but to me, the name kind of tells you that it should change into something, even if that got to be a bit of a stretch sometimes. I'm looking at you, Cybertronian modes. So taking that out of it, just a step above. Just a step above, and I'm actually going to bring in an old G1 figure for this one. Just a step above are things like one-step changers and things that have automorph. Now this is the epitome of automorph. You pull these guys back and, oh yeah, don't do it now. Alright, and he spun and just changed. I think this is Twin Twist, the G1 Twin Twist, and that's pretty much it. My problem with the kind of quick change, auto change gimmick, which comes in of course at number 9, is that you usually give up a lot of articulation for it. You know, this guy, his arms went around. No in or out, no elbow. Did the head even move? Not really. I guess you could bend at the waist like this. You know, no knee. And that's still what you get, even now usually. Not much has changed in terms of, you know, posability, playability for these simple changers. They're great. I think for young kids, they're just getting introduced because they can see a change from one mode to another. But I think for collectors and older kids, I don't think it's a great gimmick. I kind of think it's a waste of plastic, but that's just me. Taking that out of it, we come in at number 8. And number 8 is, I think, a really stylized one. Number 8 is anything that is super deformed. I'm going to use these two little guys here to show it off. Both of these came to me from Starscream Girlfriend. I looked at the Optimus for sure in episode 49 when I looked at a bunch of odds and ends. I did touch on the Megatron in one of the reviews. I don't know what one it was. But we have simple little statues like this with huge super deformed heads. We also have, now it looks nice, great sculpt. We also have ones that can change, some official and unofficial. I'm looking at you, Generations alt modes. Those have huge heads, and you pull the little tab, and the body changes from vehicle to robot, and I guess back. It's very stylized. If you're looking for something cutesy, oh, this is sweet, then maybe these guys are for you. There's been some third-party stuff that Metroplex and what's it called? Diabolus Rex, I think, is the Triptychon, and there's an Omega Supreme version. Those are third parties, and they're super deformed. And I can appreciate the engineering that went into it, but I kind of am left looking at them and thinking to myself, why? Why? Who gets this? I would love to know. If you're a fan of the super deformed style, I would love to know. Let me know in the comment section why you're a fan, what it is that pulls you to it, because I would love to know, because I kind of see it and I wonder why. I just don't get it. I don't get it personally. That brings us to the next one. And the next one, oh boy, the next one came from the Unicron trilogy. I am thinking about, if I can get this out here, I'm thinking about, boom. Yeah, I'm not talking about the figure. You have to know that I am not talking about the figure. No, I'm talking about an accessory that comes with the figure. I'm talking about this little thing. Cyber Planet keys. And the Omega lock, I think it was called, that was used with Primus. I looked at Primus back in episode 100, and really, if you don't have the Omega lock, you can't really transform the guy. Well, you can if you push down on the thing with something, but really you kind of need the Omega lock. These Cyber Planet keys, the unlock features and stuff. You lose the key. There's some features you can't use. That's a bummer. I think in some cases, maybe if you lose the key, I don't know if it ever affects transformation, but again, no. This is like morally wrong for Transformers. I don't know. Now in the case of Sky Shadow here, it just unlocked a couple of guns back here. If that's any good to you. I think it's totally unnecessary. Cyber Planet keys are one of those things that I can't even say, hey, it was a good idea. I can see why they would do it. No, I don't see why they would do it. It's ridiculous, in my personal opinion, and an absolute waste of engineering that could have been used elsewhere. Actually, I'm going to leave this guy in here for a second because he's going to tie into the next one. We are going in strong at number 6, and number 6 is another one of those that I just plain don't for the life of me get. I don't get the appeal of it. It's a nuisance and a pain most of the time, but yet some people absolutely love it, and if you do, awesome. But I don't think you're going to be able to sell me on it. I am talking about something like this. Yeah, did you hear that? Or that? Yeah, I'm talking about lights and sound. This is, of course, Cerebros from the Titan class, Titan's Return Fortress Maximus. I kind of looked at that guy in 3 parts in episodes 116, 117, and 118. I was excited to get him. Couldn't care less about lights and sound. You push it on the head. Okay, what's that supposed to be? As far as I'm concerned, take the lights and sound out. give a few more paint apps or articulation. I can even kind of see the light sometimes because they flash and that looks cool, but what's the point of this? What's the point of this? Why? You could have saved a few bucks. You could have sold them for a little bit cheaper without that. In fact, the Canadian version of Metroplex doesn't even have the voice clips. It's just a bunch of the sounds. And I don't see the point. And sometimes they do work out well, but then you get this. Is that a blaster? If it's a blaster, okay, fine. But I didn't need it. I'm just saying. Again, I'd love to know if you're a fan of lights and sound. To me, it's more often than not a nuisance. You're trying to change the guy or transform the guy, and you keep getting these noises that drive you nuts. There's one sound that I can buy as cool, and it is this. That. Okay, I can listen to that all day long, but for me, that's about it. So we will take both of these guys out of it. And we're hitting middle of the road. So what is middle of the road? Middle of the road, I'm going to go right back to G1 and Pretenders. This is Skullgrin. Yeah, okay, I'm missing a couple of parts here on him. I haven't really reviewed this guy yet. I'll get around to him in a future review. But Pretenders, what was the idea behind Pretenders? That, hey, you get this organic looking shell. Skullgrin, I mean, he got a great head sculpt. Interesting color mix. Articulation, I mean, his arms can go around a circle. The head, because of its shape, can't even really move. I mean, a little left, very little right. That's it. Why? Because the gimmick necessitates it. Because you open the guy up and what? There's an actual transformer inside, and you put the guy back together. I guess the benefit is that now all of a sudden you have, you know, two figures. All right, this is one of those where I'll say it's a nice idea, but the problem is the shell is just a fancy carrying case for one transformer because it can't really do anything else. Like nothing else. Honestly, I think that the homage that was done in maybe 2011, 2010, 2011, in the Generations line, homaged both of this well. In robot mode, it had a head sculpt similar to this. I appreciate it. In his alt mode, it was a tank, which is similar to this. But as a whole, while it works well in animation, you know, the Pretender gimmick, yeah, okay, that's fine for animation. It didn't really translate best to the toys. This was pretty great. I'll talk about that another time. This, now he has no robot in him, and he just feels so empty. So empty. Taking this guy out of it. That brings us to our next one. And I'll actually take a second here, I guess, and put Skullgrin's robot back inside of this thing here. We are at number 4. Number 4. This is the only one that I can use for a reference. Number 4, crossovers. There have been some great ones. I'm going to say it now. There was one put out for Venom, Marvel's Venom, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I've seen a KO for Iron Man using, I think it was the Generations Jetfire mold. That's kind of cool to look at. I don't think it was the best quality, but it's kind of cool to look at. This, of course, is Spider-Man, who is using, believe it or not, several years later, because I only got this a couple of years ago. Several years later, it's still basically using this mold, upsized a bit. I think these are good for novelty. I get it. They're trying to hit on, you know, like in this case, they're trying to hit on fans of Spider-Man and fans of Transformers. I get the novelty of it. But do I think it's going to be a highly successful line? Not necessarily, because if you are into, say, Star Wars, you want Star Wars merchandise. If you're into Transformers, you want those characters. If you're into, you know, something that is superhero based, you're going to want, you know, like the DC multiverse characters, or you're going to want the Marvel characters. You're going to, you know, you're going to want what's it called? Infinite Series? I don't think it's Infinite Series anymore. Legends, Marvel Legends maybe. Can you tell I'm not really into that one? I can appreciate trying to hit on a couple of market segments, but this didn't need to take up time in a factory. This didn't need to take up time in a factory. Ever. For anyone. Ever. So far, we're gonna just review these here. Action Masters and non-transforming robots. Fail. One Step and Automorph. Why? Other than for very little kids. Super Deformed, if you like cute. Cyber Planet Keys and Omega Lock, never should have been. Lights and Sound. You know what? It makes it more expensive, and I would appreciate better paint apps instead of Lights and Sound. Pretenders. Nice idea. Doesn't translate that great to figures. They could probably incorporate a waist swivel with it. Maybe. But even that might be tricky to do. Crossovers. I get it. I get it from a business perspective, but that's it. But now we have 3 gimmicks that I actually dig, at least for the most part. Number 3, that gimmick is triple changers. They've been around a long time. And we have some classic characters like Astro Train, who for me is still upcoming because I don't have the Titans Return one yet, although I do have the classics. This is the Generations Blitzwing. I looked at this guy and how to fix his shoulders back in episode 157. If that explanation of how to fix his shoulders isn't good enough, I looked at Double Dealer not long later. I looked at Springer way back in episode 75. I looked at Sandstorm just a little while ago. We're getting Broadside. I appreciate in Titans Return that they're making the Voyagers triple changers. I think that's cool. The leaders are basically triple changers, you know, bass and in Boombox, or in Power Master Optimus Prime's case, you know, truck and bass and robot. I think triple changers are cool. Usually you have 2 modes that are pretty great and one that's but I feel like they're getting better with that all the time, and I love some of these characters, and it adds an extra dimension of playability. I love this guy. I'm surprised that in all likelihood it looks like we may be getting a Titans Return update of him. I kind of don't dig him as a headmaster just because he wasn't one, but do I think it's going to be a bad toy? No, it's probably going to be a great toy, to be perfectly honest with you. So triple changers, big win in my estimation. Next is, I'm not really even sure how to say the next one. Next is a mix of things. The gimmick that I'm talking about includes this little guy. It is Infinitus from the Sentinel Prime figure, who just fell over. It includes little Target Master guys like this. It includes, here's a throwback one for you. It includes G1 headmasters like Arcana, or however you want to pronounce it. It even includes what I'm not a particularly big fan of, Minicons. Why? What is this? With his protruding tumor-esque hole on the side of his body so he can latch on to ports on Unicron or Armada Starscream or G-Axis or Primus, or why? Whatever, I just don't get it. But gimmick number 2 is a pretty straightforward one, if this guy will even stand for me. Is a pretty straightforward one. Small robots that interact with bigger robots. Now, a lot of times I'm hard on these small robots, and I typically give them scores of 1, 2, or 3, because by themselves, I mean, this Titan Master Infinitus, he's a head. You know, I think it's a nice head sculpt for Sentinel Prime. I do. I think that looks nice. But it's a head, and when you transform a lot of these guys, they have very limited articulation. But you know what? Kids and collectors have been gobbling these up for years. People like when a little robot can turn into the gun, the blaster for a bigger robot. They think it's kind of cool, and it does add a dimension of playability. The little Titan Masters have been catching on like wildfire. Not only as heads, but because you can, you know, put them with their little Titan Master vehicles, as is the case, for example, with Ape Face, or who I recently looked at, I think in episode 183 maybe. You know, I can go back and look at Titan Masters that I did in episode 135 and 136, that being Brawn and Skytread, I think is his name. You know, they can go on the bases and stuff. I get it. I get the appeal, and I get the cross playability, and the Scrapplets have been loving it. Even if I think that little guys like this don't get a high mark by themselves, I think that they're super fun for what they can add in terms of playability across different size classes. And, you know, that is always gonna be a win in my books. For the record, I haven't looked at Arcana and Brainstorm, but I'm going to be looking at those guys. That brings us to number one. Number one. So we've gone through a whole bunch. What gimmick do I actually think is the best? What gimmick do I actually think is cool? It is just plain cool. And I think it's one that everyone can probably get behind. Even though sometimes when it's done, it isn't done so well. And sometimes when it's done fabulous. Of course, I'm talking about bringing in this guy. Please, please, please just stand. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Bring this back. I'm bringing in that big guy, and I'm gonna bring in this big guy. Naturally, my number one gimmick, and the one that I can actually get behind and enjoy, are combiners. I think it's so cool that a bunch of robots can get together and make a huge, powerful robot. Sometimes, like I said, it doesn't work out that great. I looked at Menosaur and an attempt to fix his shoulders, but you can try yourself if you want. I looked at that in episode 48, and I looked at my customized Combiner Wars Bruticus, actually in a comparison with the FOC Bruticus, in episode 83. In fact, since that episode, I've actually gone ahead and painted his feet pieces to match the legs. I'm going to tell you now, the yellow used on the foot that goes with Swindle is a yellow ochre with a little bit of, I think it was a little bit of black I added to make it slightly darker. And you're looking for, you know, an olive green mixed with kind of a bit of brown to go with Brawl. But I can get behind combiners, especially these ones. For the most part, I enjoyed the Combiner Wars line. I know we all got the fatigue of repaints, naturally. And some of them were these made-up combiners. I'm looking at you, Galvatronus. And what is it, Grand Optimus? Or Optimus Maximus or Skyrain. I'm looking at those. Before, you know, really all three of the Autobots that we got, being Defensor, Superion, and why am I drawing a blank here? Who is the last one? Defensor, Superion, and Computron. How could I forget Computron? I liked the way that they turned out. I took a look, I think in episode 150, at what I did to customize the Combiner Wars Computron, and I love the guy now, absolutely, positively. combiners, I can get behind them. Sometimes we live to be impressed, sometimes we get disappointed, but the concept is awesome. And the concept being awesome has endured for over 30 years. It was one of the first gimmicks that ever came up, and we still love it today. Anyway, that's it. That's another countdown list done, going from 10 to 1. Everything covered here from what doesn't change right up to ones that combine together. I'd love to know what your favorite gimmick is. I'd love to know if you think that I have overlooked something here. Besides that, what else can I say? Thanks for giving me some of your time. It is always, always appreciated, and I look forward to the next time that we get together for another visit and another countdown right here inside the videos.